Good evening. Several people were rushed to hospital last night following two vehicle crashes north of our city. Now, it happened on Highway 17 just after 9 p.m. One of the vehicles had 5 people in it, while the other had just the driver. Now, their injuries are not known at this time, but it's believed they're not life-threatening. Police say alcohol did not play a role, and the crash is under investigation. Meanwhile, fire crews were called to the scene of a house fire at 57th Avenue and 29th Street last night. Officials say a candle sparked a minor blaze. Now, no one was injured, and crews contained the blaze in about 20 minutes. Well, there's only a week left before the city centre airport in Edmonton will be closed off to Medevac transfers. Now, they will be rerouted to the Edmonton International Airport. As Brown explains, the decision is creating plenty of controversy and concern as time travel to hospitals and emergency situations could double from the international airport compared to the city centre.
Dr. Richard Starke has been practicing medicine in Lac-La-Biche for 15 years, and he knows all too well the importance the city centre airport plays in saving lives.
We see an enormous amount of trauma coming off Conklin, off Highway 63. Most of it ends up in Lac-La-Biche, and our lifeline is the Medevac system.
Next Friday, the city centre airport will be closed to Medevac transfers, and they will now be flying into the international airport. A big mistake Starke believes will cost lives.
I know I can get a patient to Royal Alec Hospital within 38 minutes. Now, with the new system that is in place, I'm looking at about hour 24 to hour 45.
But it isn't just Starke who is concerned with the change. Many residents in northern Alberta are also questioning the government's direction.
I think it's a bad move. I think it's going to cost a lot of lives, and if it wasn't for the Medevac where it is now, I wouldn't be here.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. If it's going to cause delays and it's going to take longer, why would they do it?
I think they should keep it open because it would be a faster commute for anybody that has serious issues, so you can't get to the medical clinics faster, and that is the fastest way to get there.
Starke says there's no reason for the airport to be closed to emergency medical transfers in the near future.
They can go ahead with all the development that they have for the next 5 years. They can do the LRT, they can do the expansion of NATE. None of that is going to interfere with the runway or the Medevac system that we have.
In Lac-La-Biche, Clayton Brown, Newcap News.
Copper wire is a valuable commodity in the province and is becoming the go-to product for many property thefts. Now, there's no way of tracking these items unless they're registered. According to Vermilion Lloydminster MLA Richard Starke, Bill 201 can help with the problem.
What 201 calls for is it calls for basically a type of registration of scrap metal vendors. In other words, people who are selling the scrap metal to scrap metal dealers. And that's, it's an important tool that has been used effectively in other jurisdictions.
Just last week, police arrested 2 Dewberry men in regards to theft of copper wire from an oil field site near Clandonald. Now, altogether, more than $250,000 worth of oil field-related equipment was seized.
Incidents like this highlight why we need this piece of legislation to be passed, because if we can make it, if not impossible, very difficult for criminals to sell the proceeds of their crimes, then, it's going to reduce the incidence of crime.
Now, Bill 201 is in the committee stage and will be brought up at this Monday's meeting. Well, some local women are giving thanks to those who have inspired them, both personally and professionally. Now, although tomorrow marks International Women's Day, the Interval Home held its annual luncheon today. Kim Smith was there and has more.
A packed house at the Legacy Centre, some 200 women gathered in support of one another. This year, the theme of the event is recognizing the mentors in our lives.
I think this year that's kind of what we're working around is building female leaders in our community. And when I say leaders, that doesn't necessarily people out, in the public eye or, out in the front scenes. That means everybody.
Former Executive Director of Interval Home, Doreen McCaw, is this year's recipient of the Women of Vision Award. She credits her success to the mentors who've helped along the way.
For anyone who might consider or see that in me, I think really what they're seeing is a reflection of all of the amazing women and men who have been fantastic role models in my life.
The luncheon is a way to celebrate the achievements of local women, but it also highlights the struggles that some women continue to face, such as a lack of affordable housing.
That's probably the biggest barrier to the women that we see is being able to leave the shelter or move to Lloydminster for work and find an affordable place for themselves and their family.
Interval Home provides temporary shelter free of charge for women and their children in crisis. International Women's Day is Friday. Kim Smith, Newcap News.
March is Nutrition Month, and looking for healthy finds at the grocery store can cause a bit of a headache for some shoppers. In this week's Healthy Living, Anna Stanislaw gives us a few tips on how to make healthier food choices.
According to the Dietitians of Canada, 63% of Canadians struggle with making healthier food choices when they shop.
When you're coming to the grocery store, what you really want to be doing is focusing on the outside edges of the grocery store. That's where your main nutrients are going to be found.
The focus should be on the produce, meat, grains, and milk, and the recommended daily servings. This covers the 4 main food groups. One thing that confuses some shoppers is how much of an item they should consume daily.
The serving actually is the size of a tennis ball, so half a cup is approximately a serving. So it actually isn't a whole lot.
When reading food labels, it comes down to 4 things: comparing the serving size amount to how much you eat, the fiber, the fat amount, and sodium.
In regards to the sodium, it's 0 to 200 is a really good choice. That's milligrams per serving. 200 to 400 is an okay choice. Anything over 400, you're looking at a higher salt option, so I always recommend to try to find something else.
Shopping smart and eating healthy aren't the only things to focus on. Exercising is a vital part of living a healthy life too.
It doesn't necessarily mean going to the gym and pumping weights, just having a really physically active lifestyle. So parking at the end part of the grocery store parking lot and walking in, doing a couple extra laps when you're in the grocery store, just those extra small steps can really add up in someone's day.
Anna Stanislaw, Newcap News.
Turning your attention to ag news now, whether it's in the mafia or on the farm, nobody likes a rat. As Kyle Gallagher explains, the Alberta Rat Patrol is hard at work keeping the unwanted critters out of the province.
Rats are some of the most destructive creatures around. They destroy crops and feed, damage structures like barns and bins, and can affect the health of livestock and farmers because they're known to carry disease. Since the 1950s, Alberta has claimed it's the only rat-free province in Canada. That's because of a rat control program that keeps the pesky rodents at bay. The program is often referred to as Rat Patrol because it involves patrolling the border to keep an eye out for rats.
We do surveillance on the border. We do 18-mile strip from north to south on the border. We go down as far as the U.S. border and as far north as Cold Lake.
A big part of the job is inspecting farms that are at a risk for infestation.
Usually out stopping in at farms about 8 o'clock in the morning until about 4 in the afternoon.
And the beauty of it is the ranchers and farmers, they're always on the lookout, so it's like having an army of people out there, you know.
Attention to detail is key for keeping rats out, and the team responds to every single call they receive.
And it's just looking and looking and looking and not giving up until we're satisfied.
Alberta temporarily lost its rat-free status last summer when some were found in a landfill in Medicine Hat.
It was cleaned up really well. We spent a fair amount of time there, probably about 3 weeks.
But at the end of the day, those responsible for keeping the rats out say it's well worth it.
Rat-free, Alberta being rat-free, that's what it's all about.
Kyle Gallagher, Newcap News.